Andrea Leadsom, the Right Honourable Member of Parliament for South Northamptonshire, former leader of the House of Commons serving from 2017 to 2019, has come into the news recently because she is one of the 10 candidates jockeying for the position of Prime Minister. Andrea Leadsom has been an MP since 2010. She has served as the Secretary of State for Environment, Food and Rural Affairs from 2016 to 2017. She's been the Minister of State for Energy and Economic Secretary to the Treasury. She's had quite the illustrious career, even if all those positions lasted about a year each. Except for the Leader of the House of Commons and Lord President of the Council, which she lasted 2 years. As a Tory leadership candidate, she's had to start giving speeches about what she wants to do to best serve the people. And the most notable thing she has said is to attack Labour, because Labour governments always destroy incentives to work hard and prosper. That is a direct quote from her. She's also said that you cannot, MPs and John Bercow, the Speaker, cannot block no deal. This is in reference to the fact that Parliament yet again is voting over whether or not they should take control of the Brexit timetable, which means they then seize control over Brexit to an extent. Their position, however, is somewhat faulty, because it is on the premise that they can even discuss anything with the EU again, when the EU has outright said no, Halloween is it. Although they actually put a date on it, I'm just simplifying it to Halloween because everyone remembers Halloween. The reason that Andrea Leadsom has said this, said that no deal cannot be blocked by Parliament or the Speaker, is a direct contradiction against Jeremy Hunt and Rory Stewart, or, as he looks in this picture, Zippy, because they think MPs will not permit the EU withdrawal without an agreement, like they have a say over legal default, because you cannot, and I'm going to quote her, put into law that you can't leave without a deal, because you cannot put into law that when it is enshrined in EU law that you have 2 years to negotiate. And this got ballsed up because of micromanaging and some rather silly red lines. And all the concessions being made by us, we gave away so much. If the EU wanted a best deal, they should have negotiated with us, as opposed to us negotiating with them. She has insisted that should people try this and she be elected Prime Minister, she will drop her own Brexit bills to stop MPs using them as a means to delay the departure. And I can actually respect this. We, the 4 nations of the United Kingdom, voted to leave. She is actually very vocal in delivering that. Whether or not she can deliver is a different matter entirely. Finding a way to unite the party is rather complex. Certainly when the frontrunner is still Boris Johnson anyway. In a slight twist, there is something else Andrea Leadsom has said, just a small thing that reminded me of Triple H, when it came to the subject of Scottish independence, where she has said that another referendum was not in the country's best interests and that she doesn't want to see one, which I can respect, because they are a devolved administration, they are a part of something quite big. In 2014 they voted to remain in the UK. Now okay, I will concede, they voted to stay in on the pretense that we also stayed in the EU. However, David Cameron decided to give us the chance to vote to leave, and we did. So an argument, a rather valid argument, can be made that an agreement was made for them to remain, and it has in fact been reneged upon. So perhaps a second referendum should be considered, or further devolving powers to Scotland, if there are any left that we can be bothered to give them. Perhaps we should stop funding those pharmacies and education, because honestly, why should we? If you want to be a devolved administration, you should be responsible for all aspects of Scottish culture and society. But we'll control the immigration thing, because I've heard enough stories that there are 5,000 homeless children in your country, but you're more interested, SNP, this is aimed at you, more interested in taking in refugees than helping those in your country that need help. This is why I take the stance, if you can't take care of those at home, you don't then take care of anyone else around the world. Fix your home first. But back to Andrea Leadsom. She has said, never say never. And this has opened up a door. First Minister for Scotland, Nicola Sturgeon, wants to hold an independence referendum within the next 2 years. But To do so, she needs the agreement of the UK government before holding that referendum. Downing Street has said that it would not grant a new Section 30 order, which underpinned the 2014 referendum, a position that has been backed by many of the 10 candidates to succeed Theresa May as Prime Minister, which is understandable because they want to keep the United Kingdom united. Scotland's SNP are a bit deluded. The EU has said on a few occasions now that if Scotland got their independence, they would not be allowed to join the EU anyway. So why must the SNP persist? They're trying to leave one union to rejoin another, because their voices aren't being heard in the UK. Right. Well, it's interesting you mention that, because we voted to leave the EU because our voices weren't being heard in the EU. What makes you think your minnow nation are going to be heard any better? But this never say never thing, to get back on track and finish, is a dangerous thing to say. You shouldn't say never. You should simply say, I do not support a second referendum, but we can certainly talk about concessions that should maybe be considered as a way to appease the Scottish people going forward. I know that the SNP and Scotland certainly would want this to protect their interests, but the country voted leave. People in your own country voted leave as well, I might add. Maybe they were outvoted by a considerable margin, but they still voted leave as well. The blindness that is being shown is similar to that of those who voted for Labour in the Peterborough by-election, ignoring the fact that so many people voted for the Brexit Party while saying that they were defeated. No, they weren't. They're a party that's existed for less than 3 months, and they managed to come second in a by-election. They are now a legitimate threat. And Andrea Leadsom's comments on Brexit I support, on Scottish independence I do not.